This is FYI, conversations with interesting people about fascinating projects happening in Ohio.
And I'm JT Burcham. Welcome to FYI 93.7 The Light and Hope 100.7. Today, an interesting person and a fascinating project. Matter of fact, I'm going to welcome John Zoller, executive producer with Exhibition Hub, in just a moment. But first, we're talking about a 40-year celebration of the Titanic. Not necessarily a celebration, but 40 years since the discovery in 1985. John has helped bring an immersive journey on the Titanic to Cincinnati. Welcome, John. How are you?
Good, JT. Thanks so much for having me on the show. Really appreciate being here.
If I read your whole bio, it would be the whole 14 minutes. And we got so much fun stuff to talk about. So thank you for sharing your time with me. Appreciate it. You've done a lot, and I'm excited what you're bringing to Cincinnati. 40 years ago, Navy officer Robert Ballard discovered the Titanic 400 miles off Newfoundland, ending a 73-year search. But I understand that even when he found it, he wasn't really looking for Titanic. Is that true?
So it's partly true, yes. So Ballard did want to go out and find the Titanic, but he needed sophisticated equipment that would also be developed for him to go find the Titanic, particularly these underwater autonomous vehicles, these robots that could dive to these depths and search for the Titanic or wrecks like the Titanic. So he went to the Navy and said, I've got this idea for this technology. And they said, that's great. We would be happy to help you, but first you have to help us find something. Uh-huh. And so they sent him on a mission, a classified mission, to find some sunken submarines, which he was able to find. And they told him, if you find these in the time frame we've allotted, you could spend the rest of your time looking for Titanic. So with a couple days left in the overall mission plan, he was able to then redirect all those resources to the wreck site, towards the wreck site where he thought the wreck site was, and lo and behold, discovered a boiler from the Titanic that then led to seeing those first incredible images of the ship.
Interesting. Now, real quick, let's talk about the exhibition that you're bringing to Cincinnati. It's full of opportunities to kind of get involved, hands-on, see artifacts. You've put a lot of material together. Where do you even start to describe this event?
Well, I think you start with the title, Titanic: An Immersive Voyage. And that's really what it is. We want to place you on the ship like never before and place you in the story like never before. So we've assembled over 200 artifacts. Actually, the collection that we have is over 2,000. We've been able to select about 200 artifacts to bring to Cincinnati. Very key elements, both from Titanic, but also from her sister ship, Olympic. And Olympic is a ship that was built as a direct copy of Titanic. So there were actually 3 ships built, but Olympic was the first one built. When you're looking at these objects from Olympic that we have, you're actually seeing Titanic in her glory, which is really impressive because we think about Titanic as a wreck at the bottom of the ocean, but we don't necessarily think about her as this incredible ship that she was. We don't have the visual reference for it, but using some of these artifacts from Olympic, you can see the incredible woodwork. You can see the incredible finishes. You can see, like this clock we're looking at here, you can see the incredible finishes that made Titanic what she was in the form of Olympic. So we also have artifacts from the Carpathia, which is the rescue ship, and we have artifacts recovered from passengers who were floating on the surface of the ocean by the body recovery ships. So there's a whole life cycle of the storytelling, from her conception to her construction to her sailing to those tragic final hours on April 14th, April 15th, 1912.
Yeah. Now, I understand that actually the Titanic underwater is actually decaying, and we are losing our opportunity to see it and be there. Is that
correct? True. That is true. So Titanic is being consumed primarily by all kinds of microorganisms, primarily rust-eating bacteria that are slowly eating away at the iron ore of the ship. They feed off of the iron ore, and it creates. If you see any footage of the wreckage, and you will, if you go through our experience in our virtual reality experience, we actually dive to the wreck of the ship, but you'll see these like icicles, and they've been called rusticles, and that's the iron eating bacteria at work eating away at the ship. There was a lot of concern that it was going to collapse on itself in the next few years. More recent research has told us it's going to be around for around 500 more years.
Okay.
So that's good in terms of getting, being able to continue to capture great images of the ship in its decay. It's amazing to think about such a glorious ship sitting at the bottom of the ocean, really the last silent witness to that tragic night on April 14th.
Yeah. Now, you are bringing an experience to people here in Cincinnati. They can walk through, they can be a passenger. Yes, be a passenger.
Yep, you get a boarding pass as you enter.
Wow.
And on that boarding pass is a name of an actual passenger who sailed on the Titanic, with a little bit about their biography. So you learn their age, where they were from, what they were sailing to the United States for, what their hopes and dreams were. And we set up the story as though you're getting on board the ship. As you go through the experience, you learn a little bit more about your passenger. We have these interactive stations where every passenger's story is told in a little bit more detail. Also, depending on what class you're in, first, second, or third class or crew, you'll probably spend a little bit more time thinking about, oh, what would my passenger have done in this situation with this object or in this scene? In the end, you get to a memorial room where all those names are listed on a wall, and your passenger is listed there either as someone who survived or was lost. And that is a really powerful moment for people, where it really comes home. This isn't just a story that's made up. This is a real human story that is one of the greatest maritime disasters of all time, but full of thousands and thousands of individual stories, and you become a part of it.
Yeah. Wow. Now, there's a real Cincinnati connection this year too. You're doing this a couple other cities, but I noticed Cincinnati has a person I had no idea on the ship.
There are definitely passengers from all over the United States, and we do try to focus on those individuals from the various cities to make those connections. Absolutely.
Yeah. What do you know about the person from Cincinnati? What did you know his story?
Enlighten me.
Okay, I understood that he was a first class passenger, a successful businessman. He helped make Barnum and Bailey posters, event posters for events, including Barnum and Bailey. And he sadly passed away. He was visiting abroad and took the Titanic home. His family came home later on a different ship, but his life tragically was lost. He was well-to-do. He was a first-class passenger. So,
And you would think that first class passengers would have the best chance of success, but really that rule of the sea kicked in when they were loading the lifeboats, women and children first. So even though first class passengers survived in the greatest percentage, what you see is the first class passengers that really survived were those women and those younger children who were allowed to load into the lifeboats. So it's an incredible equaling of the playing field when you think about all these lives, all these different classes that are brought together, but in those final moments, we're all equal in the eyes of the sea.
wow, you're exactly right. Matter of fact, the information that I have heard, that his last words actually were, let me see, where'd it go? No, you four kiddos go ahead and get in the lifeboat. I'll be right back.
Right.
And tragically, those were remembered to be his last words.
Yep. And that's you see a lot of that in the storytelling, where in the remembrances of the men who were staying behind because that was the right thing to do.
Sure.
reassuring their wives or their families. Oh, there's space for me in another lifeboat right over here, right down the boat deck. I'll be right with you, knowing that there was a good chance that they wouldn't make it, and that's part of that heartrending story of the Titanic. And one of the questions that we all find ourselves asking, what would I have done in that situation had I been there? And it's if you get into some self-reflection, it's really tough to think about how thin that veil of society is and how strong it was that night in terms of those folks standing back and saying, no, I'm going to give my life in order to save these other lives, which is really, really powerful when you think about it.
Yeah. Now, I've got to ask a little bit of a trick question. We're a Christian station, and a lot of folks, are hymn lovers, and there is, "Nearer My God to Thee" has been touted as one of the last songs the band played. Is that for real? Is there evidence for that?
So there's a lot of evidence of Wallace Hartley playing "Nearer My God to Thee" as the ship began its final plunge. A lot of individuals have told that story. A lot of survivors told that story. They could hear it wafting out over the waves as the ship was going on its final plunge. So he had that music in his music box that he traveled with, that was strapped to his body, and there's good evidence for it. There's other folks that say that he had a different final song, but I'm a proponent of "Nearer My God to Thee" because it is such a beautiful hymn and it is so comforting. It would be the perfect thing to have played at that time.
Yeah. Certainly a soul-searching moment, though. Oh, my goodness. Now, you've got our attention. We are intrigued by your project. How do we get there? When and where is it? And do you have any of those details?
So yes, we're opening March 15th.
Okay.
We're right downtown on West 4th Street. So the address is 10 West 4th Street. It's actually the old Giddings Jenny building,
Okay.
which had been a TJ Maxx. We've had it for several years. The Van Gogh exhibit was there. And if you
Yes.
go to expo-titanic.com, you can get your tickets. And I've done, as we were talking about, I've done a lot of exhibitions over the years. One of my first exhibitions I ever did was a Titanic exhibition. But I will say that of all the exhibits I've created, this is the one I'm most proud of because it brings all those years of experience, all that extra learning I've been able to do around Titanic, and bring it into this new immersive format that tells a story in a way that just has never been able to be told before. We were talking a little bit about the virtual reality experience that's part of this, and you can put on a pair of virtual reality goggles in about a 11-minute experience. You dive to the wreck site and you see the Titanic wreck. And I'm telling you, nobody in any submersible who's dove to the Titanic and looked through one of those little windows about this big can see the Titanic the way you see it through those VR goggles. It is incredible. And again, we take you not only to the wreck site, but we take you in a flashback to revisit those final moments. And it's just such a beautiful experience. People come out just full of emotion, all kinds of emotions that you just don't get watching it on TV. You don't get reading about it. Experiencing it firsthand like this is the way to do it. So I really hope to bring this to as many people in Cincinnati as possible. I'm originally from Ohio, grew up in Cleveland, so apologies for that, but happy to bring it to my home state. Titanic and Immersive Voyage.
Nice. John, thank you. I'm so intrigued by your work, and I look forward to seeing this experience. Again, we encourage folks to go expo-titanic.com to learn more. John, thank you for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thanks, JT. Real pleasure.
And thanks for bringing it to Cincinnati. So cool.
Happy to do it. Proud, truly, truly proud to bring it to my home state.